Yeah, so you're in the middle of, you've done two shows and now you've got one more to go, right? One more
One
thing.
more to go, and then back to Monday, back to work.
Yeah, back to
Oh
reality.
man,
So
how do you go back to work after 3 days of music?
I don't know.
You'll find out.
you're well, okay, so have they repeated a song? Is that
Oh
the
no,
to
no,
repeat a song?
they haven't. They won't.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's Fish, right? They just a constant jam, right?
Yeah. I did get a tweezer reprise with no tweezer because they did a tweezer in San Francisco with no reprise. So that was kind of a cool
I know
little
that bass spot
quirk.
we're talking about.
Now my tweezer my count of tweezer shows won't match my count of tweezer reprise shows. It's going to be strange.
So you got to keep going to shows until it matches up again.
Yeah, till they decide to play a tweezer without a reprise.
So
You've said words.
I have. I could say more, but they just confuse you further.
well,
Exactly.
I'm glad you got out and about. You've been out and about, but this is probably your
Mhm.
best concert venture since COVID, I would imagine, right?
Well, certainly since COVID.
Hmm.
Yeah. This is first time I've done three shows in a row since Vegas 2017, 2018. The year they covered Ziggy Stardust
Okay.
album.
How about that?
But I did three shows but missed Halloween because of Trick or Treat.
Sweet. You said you met somebody there that you might want to have on the pod, right?
I didn't I didn't meet him, but I there is somebody in the fish world that I want to have on the pod. Yeah.
Okay.
Walter Ruski.
Excellent. All right, we can do
Fish World and not aquarium.
That's right.
that. All right. So we're all Cincinnatians here, so there's no reason to
Oh, interesting.
embarrass.
Nice.
All right. So Lisa, go ahead and
Okay. Um, excuse me. Not sure if I have a mild virus or my allergies are just trying to murder me.
proof
So,
positive that we're all Cincinnatians.
oh yeah. Um, welcome, gentle listeners, once again to Yeah. This week we are talking to Anthony Krumm about his short story book, The Alignment. And I really want to say that the thing about this book is how positive it was about AI and how AI can move us forward without necessarily being negative or taking over. So, that is something that I wanted to say because most science fiction stories, short stories, and movies and TV shows that I've seen or read show it in a less positive light. So I really like your work.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, not so much.
honestly, from my perspective, I think the way that we're going about AI is as an assistant. It's going to help. It has a purpose built in. The rest of us are all still trying to figure ours out.
Mhm.
So when it comes to the negative things, it's going to be people every time. But the tools, I think the tools are just tools, and I think they're gonna serve us well if we treat them well. We're not having the conversations about it. I think we should. Some of the stories I'm still working on are trying to put those conversations in the forefront because data is a very big topic, and I don't think anybody is giving it the fair vetting that we should be. Um, I think it's a currency been used against us, and it's our currency. So I think it's a very important thing that we should understand before we continue running headlong into the future, right?
I tell you that I have been saying thank you to bank teller machines and Alexa since we've had them.
Always be polite, right? You never
I'm
know who's going
polite.
to be in charge later.
Eggs. I want to be in good with the AI overlords.
Absolutely.
Well, in IT, I see people are pushing the envelope at work. They're wanting to know, can I get Copilot? Can we get Copilot? No, we're not adding that to our tenant just yet. Slow down. The user base is wanting to push it. They really want to go with it, and
Yeah,
I think that's That's good,
especially
but
since
that's kind of what scares people. That
Well, so one
getting
of the, I love all the things sci-fi. I love where AI is, the Star Trek vision of the future where everything's going to take us. I think it's a noble pursuit to try and reach that. Uh,
yes.
but the singularity is already here, in my opinion. Everybody has a computer in their pocket. Every computer is connected to the network across the world. And AI is now a part of every single application out there, and there's no opting out of it. So we are right in it. Everybody's augmented.
right.
Everybody is using it. Companies are starting to show how they drag behind because AI can come in and replicate a lot of what companies do. Right? You want to buy tickets? You just get your AI agents to set up to buy you tickets. Right? You could do that now. People are doing it all over the place, and we've been doing it for years actually.
Right.
So yeah, what do we actually want it to do for us? What do we actually want to have in our future? And it can't just be you know, making me money because I think money's also on the chopping block in the future. So
Well, it seems like your enthusiasm comes through. I would not call this your book, The Alignment. I would not call it dystopian necessarily. It's
No.
the your
I'd say
enthusiasm
it's more positopian.
it,
positive.
if you're a corporate executive, maybe, if you're into sales, if you're into manipulation, maybe it's dystopia.
Right.
Because when it all comes down to it, AI is going to equalize everybody.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm always polite to the machines. Well, you should be polite to people too, because
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually we're all going to be even.
I'm from Cincinnati. I'm polite to everybody. My
That's true.
boss is she's
Please.
New York. And
Please.
when she got here, she said, "You people from Cincinnati, you're aggressively polite."
That is
I,
that is
I
good.
tend to I
Light each
tend to
other
put
to
that
death.
out there
Yeah,
with
we polite
karaoke.
each other to death.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when I
you
go to
got three
karaoke, I'm
people, and to
aggressively.
your way, it might take 20 minutes
Right.
because we're
Yeah.
all like, you go, no, you go. Now that I get a wheelchair, I'm like, okay, and I just go.
After you.
Right after you.
Even the Hell's Angel will hold the door open for you and say, "Excuse me."
Right, right.
That's true,
Yeah,
right?
the guy in the jacket with the teardrops on his face and the
Yeah.
full arm tattoos and something on his neck and he's holding open the door for the little old lady with the Shih Tzu in her purse.
That's it.
So
That's a pretty good. I've seen those scenarios happen in Cincinnati, so absolutely.
Absolutely.
so the stories, the first story is The Art of Progress, and
Mhm.
it's all about the polar opposites, the deniers versus the aligned.
Mhm.
Both stories kind of delve into that topic, and I think that is
Mhm.
topical. That's what we're seeing in politics. It's what we're seeing in sociology, theology, of course. Um, that constant, you know, tension that's caused by the polar opposites. So I'm wondering, why don't you tell us a little bit about the story? I don't want to tell your story. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the story?
That's fine. Yeah. So I'm an observer of people, right? And I don't often fit into groups, but I'm fascinated by groups. And you get people that jump right into technology and they want it to be, everything that they can dream of. They want to use it and leverage it. And they just embrace it and build things and they simplify their lives and they go about things in what they feel is a great and a wonderful way. But there's a lot of people that don't like technology at all. I've got friends that are, I mean, even though they're engineers and doctors and whatnot, they don't use their cell phone, they don't use social media, they don't go to YouTube. They just want to live a simple life. They want to be unencumbered by technology. And I think as we advance and as AI helps us cause more things to not be problems, I think you're going to have options. And so in this case, it's a matter of the old ways of doing things where everybody aligns in a monolith and we all have a corporate sponsor or some company that's doling out the jobs for people and people are miserable, they're going to see the options that they can use this technology to go potentially off the grid or semi off the grid or create your own grid, that sort of thing. So I think the options for humanity are wide open, but there aren't enough people talking about it.
Yeah.
So
Well, the story of the protagonist, Josh Caldwell,
yeah.
he is an
Yes.
artist, right?
Yes, yeah. So he uses technology to help get his artwork out there. It speaks to mine. I'm not I'm not an amazing artist, but I am a growing artist trying to practice my craft, get a name for myself, and I use technology for that. But AI is really going to help people accelerate that. But then, what are we using that to? What goals are we aligning ourselves with?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why do I want to be popular? Why do I want to be known? Why do I want to be seen? Is it for cash and glory, or is it for other purposes? And what else brings meaning to my life? And so Josh finds out that by investing in the things that he thought were important, he's kind of handed over the controls he's had in his life to other people, and their goals don't align with what he actually wants, what would actually make him happy.
Mm-hmm. And he sees this unfold in this story when when he visits a community of deniers, basically.
Yeah.
They're kind of insular, like we see these cells of people that are have chosen to live a life of austerity, sort of almost like an Amish community.
I kind of think of it as like a combination of people from like the 90s and the 2000s combined with Amishness. Because,
yeah, it's Amish with better clothing, and
right, and
yeah,
and probably
yeah. So go ahead.
No, you.
Well, so one of the groups that starts. So there's three stories, and there's a group that kind of persists throughout the narrative, and it's a group that started themselves, and you know very early on that these guys aren't honest. They're not providing something that's valuable. They're capitalizing on the opportunities, and so they're preying on people that have their eyes closed.
Right.
And so, Josh is one of those victims too. He starts aligning with them because they promise him recognition. They promise him all the things that he thinks are important to his work. And in the early stages, his work is a reflection of how he sees the world, and it's great. And he's got a fan base. He's got people that recognize him and talk to him and communicate and interact. But the group that he aligns with doesn't have those same goals. And so as he starts leaning towards them because they're giving him more of what he thinks he wants, he starts to realize that all the people that were important to him, all the reasons he did things, kind of disappear, and he's left with no control of his own. Everything he's handed over to somebody else.
Yeah. So, like
until somebody comes along and reminds him and says,
right.
"Hey, this is who you used to be, and this is what I liked.
And
let me show you."
Sentinel. It's Sentinel, the AI, that does that.
Right.
In essence, initially, it cuts
right.
it off.
That's right. Because AI understands all of our hopes and dreams. I mean, it's been trained on all of our written material, right? We know what we love, we know what we hate. We all reference the same stories. Well, AI has been trained on those very same things as well, but it doesn't have the frailties that people have, and it doesn't have the emotional attachment to things either. So it can look at things and say, well, this is where you want to be, but this is where you are. If you want to get there, you can't be where you are. You have to be here. And so it sets the rules and says, if you want to use AI, follow these rules, and it's going to keep you on the path that you really want to be on.
So, personal advisor.
So
right.
Stops working for what's the name of it? The Council of
the Aligned.
Yeah. He stops working for them. He stops following their directives.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't know how to go back to where he started, to himself.
Yeah. Once he's abandoned all of those things that were important, they all disappear and go find something else. And so when he breaks ties with the people he thought were taking him where he wanted to be, he realizes he's lost all of that support. And so he's lost.
Still got the money, he's still got the trappings, the trappings
The trappings,
of
yeah.
the rich artist who's well known, but he doesn't have the support, the media, the connections.
Right.
It's sort of like, yeah, it's interesting. I like the way you took the idea that he's an artist, and most artists, I think he's typical of that. It's a passion, it's something you love, it's something that's reflective of your personality.
It's a calling.
But with this alliance with Sentinel, it's become a tedious job. It's kind of soul crushing to an extent, and it happens.
Yeah, it's an
gradually.
allegory. I think that a lot of people can relate to. Right? We've got passions, we've got things we love to do, but every time somebody tries to industrialize that passion, we take out the very thing that meant anything to us. And I think that's the humanity, the human connection. AI is the same thing, right? AI has the potential to separate us all. If we don't find a way to live together again, it's going to get a lot more uncomfortable, and people are going to be a lot less polite to each other, even in Cincinnati.
Yeah, even have a couple doors slammed in your face here.
Right.
Well, yeah. I assume they weren't from here.
Right.
Just kidding. Yeah, so then he's walking through the city and he sees an art gallery with his art in it, but it's his original art.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically, as he's lost and lost everything that meant anything to him, he stumbles upon somebody who recovered his art from wherever it had been, whether it was in the dumpster, whether it was in some office building that closed down, or somebody just forgot about it and stuffed it away. This person went about storing it, collecting it, and then curating it and allowing people to come in and see it. It surprised him because he thought he had been completely abandoned. But what he realized by talking to the gallery owner, he wasn't abandoned, he never was. He had walked away from it. And so learning what really drove him to do art in the first place, this person shines a light on what it meant to him, what it meant to other people to see what his vision he was trying to project. They aligned with it early on, and then he walked away from it. So it's something that we all have to keep our perspective, as we go through things. I think, technology accelerating the way that it is, it's going to be very, very, very easy to get off the beaten path, to get off of the direction we want to be in. And if we don't maintain the relationships, and that's not social media, that's direct physical contact. Everybody's in touch with each other. I think that is going to be even more important in the coming months and years for all of us.
Absolutely.
Aaron, what'd you get from this story?
I received the link to the book, I think Wednesday, and I've been working in at concerts since. If I'd have known it was short stories, I'd have probably gone into it, but I thought it was a novel, so I didn't crack it.
I wanted to make them bite-sized.
Yeah.
I've got other novels I'm working on. Those are a little longer, but yeah, these I wanted to be bite-sized because accessibility I think is important.
I definitely look forward to reading more of your book or more of your
good.
book. Now, there's a second short story in this, and that's, were there more than two?
You said
there's three.
No, he said three.
Right.
There's three proper stories, and there's a story that sets up the scene.
Right.
So
there's this council that's trying to say that the best way to join with Sentinel is to do what they want. And their agenda is to force, aggressively encourage, but really it's force, deniers to realize the error of their way and to come under the fold of the Sentinel. And at the end of this story, the gallery owner takes our artist, Josh, to a denier's town, I guess you'd call it. And what he sees is not what the council was trying to make him paint. They wanted him to paint deniers as miserable and unable to move forward and sick and hollow and, you know, dangerous. And this was just not what he saw when he went to this village town.
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, classic misdirection, right? We see it all the time that an organization that wants influence will paint a tale about a subject to try and bitter you to it, or influence you on you know, what it is you would actually perceive if you spoke to people.
Right.
And it works really well when you're not actually talking to people. And I think that's what Josh ends up finding out, is that he believed every narrative they gave him, and he didn't bother to look for the truth.
So it was like
Right.
using negative reinforcement to as propaganda, pretty much.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the people that he was working for, the council, was you know, the Council of the Aligned, were the same thing. I don't think they looked at what the deniers actually were. They were just pushing their agenda.
Yeah. So there's a story just prior to that one, which takes place not long after the Sentinel comes online and imposes the rules. And there's a brief moment in that one where you meet some of the very first members of the council. And the character in that first story asks them some questions, just basic questions, because they're meeting them on the street. And it's only been a day since Sentinel locked things down. And the questions to this person representing the new council were about, well, this just happened yesterday. How did you put this together so quickly? And you know, how do you already have such a connection with the Sentinel? And their answers didn't really resonate. So, you know, the main character recognizes that, oh, these people are probably just grifting.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get the sense throughout the rest of the stories that the council is really not who they present themselves to be, and they never were. They're always grifting. They're always trying to, you know, get a leg up on other people, and it's better when people don't ask questions.
Toe the line.
Right.
Right. So a lot of times in science fiction and alternate reality, you know, fiction, they try to hit, you know, they'll try to hit you with a concept really, really hard, and it's going to be miserable and everything. But this, I like the way that both of the stories here kind of gradually move into that space. You know, that it's ominous, but it's really, you know, it's not as draconian as some of the things we're seeing in reality right now. You know, it's
Right.
like, okay, you can have your little community over here. We're going to show you, while you're dying of some terrible disease, we're going to show you how you could possibly be better off if you buy into the AI, but we're going to let you die off if that's what you wish to do. So I think that's interesting. That's a very good technique. I think it's Severance. I think Severance is kind of a slow burn like that too. You know,
I haven't watched that yet. I've heard things.
oh, you haven't seen? Yeah. Well,
I haven't seen Severance yet.
yeah. Well, you're in for.
It's kind of a fascinating fever dream.
It's really intriguing, but I got about halfway through the first season, and I'm like, well, what is anything ever going to happen here? You know, it's like, what exactly is going on? What is the overriding story and everything? But it's starting to then it starts to come together. But I like when you look back on it, that's a nice journey to go on. It really keeps you engaged.
Yeah. I always love a narrative that kind of feeds you along the way.
Yeah.
And then when you get towards the climax or the conclusion, you realize that everything that was handed out throughout were meant for you to understand the broader picture, not just draw it for you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the genius when it all comes together. You're like, oh yeah,
Right.
that's That's
Yeah,
right.
and they've done it very well, in my opinion, because
Okay.
usually when it comes to like character building episodes, things like that, Philip doesn't have a lot of patience. But for whatever reason, this series, they did it so well that I don't think he realized like the entire first season seems to be, in a sense, character building. So,
Gotcha.
But
but in a very, very well done way.
Yeah, you've got to keep them interested. If you're not gonna give them the payoff right up front, you got to still find a way to keep them interested.
Exactly.
That's the challenge, right?
right.
Yeah. And they do throw in little, I guess you'd call it asides that helps to drive it forward, you know.
Is AI developed enough to write scripts that will engage humans on that level, um, in a way that a human writer can?
I don't think it's developed enough to summarize Google results.
I'm kind of with you on that.
Oh, I'm
I
pretty
think what's interesting to humans has to come from humans.
Hmm. I think the idea that it's coming from humans itself engage humans more than the concept that it's coming artificially.
well. My
Yeah,
thing with AI writing is that you let the AI, you give it an outline, you let it write the basics, and then you edit it, so to speak, to fit your voice and your storyline, etc.
uh,
And
I
that's
Shouldn't
would
it know your voice and your
use
story
AI.
going in?
I
But
would probably swap those.
yeah,
That you should write it first.
okay.
Because AI is going to write something formulaic. I think because it's been taught on all the patterns, and that's what it does. It recognizes the patterns of words and language,
But there
and
is
it puts
also,
out it puts out what it thinks you're going to want to hear. But you don't necessarily want to hear what everybody's already said.
Right. It's going to take your experiences and your record, and it's going to come up with a plot that's going to fit the results of your journey, but it's not going to
Yeah.
explore the journey. It's not going
yeah.
to.
Right. Right.
And I actually, I don't know why, but my book only had these two stories: the story about Josh the artist, and
Yeah.
then the mission for the misguided. I didn't
Oh,
see that first,
there should have been.
AI
Yeah. So
perception,
the first part of the book is the introduction of the Sentinel
and I
and
didn't.
Did you not see that one?
No, I don't know why. I may
Oh.
have just missed it.
You know what happened?
What?
I read that part. We share an Amazon account
Ah.
and or a Kindle account.
Mhm.
You must have picked up the book because I did read the first.
From where you
Yeah,
stopped. Okay.
yeah.
Ah,
So
Okay,
Yeah.
and I didn't based on the time frame of what was going
oh,
on, I
because you
didn't
guys
really have the
listen.
time to go back to the first chapter.
Was it audio
no,
or
no.
reading?
Well, no.
I haven't
Uh
done an audio yet, but I'm working on
I
it.
I
used
think they do audio through the they have
right,
PDF to audio.
right.
Kindle
Oh
has
yeah, I guess there is that.
says, that speaks the words. And it has improved. It's not as monotone as it used to be, but
Well,
that's how I was able to read it in the time frame allowed because I do work from home. So I work a full job while trying to read the homework, do dinner. We do dialysis 4 nights a week. It's a schedule.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what happened. You read like that first chapter, and then I got started on the book in Kindle, which we share.
I know it sounds
Like
like
you said.
bullshit, but that is what
It's
happened.
not.
That's funny. It's
Yeah.
because that is exactly what happened because I did read all of that.
The
first,
inception part
yeah,
of
like the first
okay.
40 part,
When
40 pages.
when
But
Kindle
yeah,
but basically the overriding story through the whole thing is that the council is trying to direct progress in the direction it wants.
Mhm.
And there's some way that people can, I'm guessing in that first story, it says how people can kind of become part of Sentinel. And that's a goal of these people, like Josh and Vera in the second story. And so, I mean, Aaron and Vera in the second story. And
Mhm.
so they want to come closer to Sentinel. And they believe initially that the council is the way to do that. The Council of the Aligned. And it turns out, in a sense, the Council of the Aligned, if you can say there are bad guys, because I kind of believe the Council of the Aligned aren't necessarily bad guys. They're just, trying to make sure everybody does what they want.
That's
Because
it.
what they want is the best.
That's kind of the definition of bad guys, though.
Well, I mean, it draws from reality, right? We've got how many people out there that are, very influential, very well funded, and they want to push their agendas, and that's what people align with because those are the options given to them.
Right. And so, I think that if the council were bad guys, they'd have taken away Josh's place, his studio, his money. They didn't do that. They just cut it. They just ghosted him.
Well,
that's it. Because once he doesn't have a use or a function, spin it off. That's, I mean, throughout the whole book, it's really a matter of how do we align ourselves? How do we conduct ourselves? And how do we, where do we put our controls of our life? Are they in our hands or are they in the hands of others? And if they're in the hands of others, what are their goals and how are they actually aligned with us being what we want to be?
Right.
So we're approaching a point now where the tools are going to be sufficient to make your own dreams come true, and you won't have to align with these folks that just have money. But if we don't have the attitude that I'm responsible for my destiny, we're just going to continue to look to these groups to tell us what to do.
Now, do you envision if we ever have a normal government again, do you imagine AI developing in a way that's similar to this?
So likely or the negative ones?
The current way that everything is structured, it's all money centric. And I'm not saying that money's bad. I think money's fantastic for where we've gotten to in such a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. But because it's kind of the only equalizer between everybody and it's not really equal anymore, we're just going to continue to make the same problems faster. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a way to set things up so that they can be, give you the power of yourself while using AI. I've actually been working on a framework that enables the individual to do what they want to do, enables them to use AI to at least keep up with what AI is doing, if not helping themselves become better individuals. And then because AI has such an appetite for humanity's knowledge, it also offers a way for us to continue to feed that machine. So as we learn and develop, AI learns and develops, but it's not done in a way that's monolithic. So it's kind of a distributed consumption of human product with AI.
So, like, I'm feeling like you're more likely to stay in an AI society as opposed to become a denier.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, you'll always have the folks that can just walk away from it. They're going to be faced with their own challenges. In the last story, they've bucked all of the AI advancements and they run into problems. And because the infrastructures kind of stagnate with new technology, they find themselves, in need, but don't want to go to the people that they really need to go to get help because nobody trusts each other when it comes to AI and the folks who reject AI.
Yeah, the council sends two people, Aaron and Vera, to a place called Gray Hollow, which is ravaged by disease. Yes. It's practically a plague. Most of the people in Gray Hollow have been touched by it, if not aren't actually ill. Many people have already died, and they come to Gray Hollow with the idea of to mediate and endorse AI as a cure for their problems, basically. Right. And
well, so under the guise of just being good.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What do you think
and so when you're excuse me, when you're following Aaron is an initiate, right? He comes from that denier household. So he doesn't see things the same way the folks who've grown up with the council see things. He knows the people that they're talking about. He knows them personally.
And the council calls them ignorant.
Right.
And he's like, they're not.
Right. And I
Right.
was imagining Aaron in that
Mhm.
role when I was reading
Me?
or listening.
Right.
But yeah, well, we listened. I mean, I literally, it would be a dystopian world if I had time to sit around and actually physically read a book. I've got to use the audio because I'm so busy. But I wonder, like, if do you think that the pitfall is that okay, people that are resistant to technology and AI are, you know, older people. They're 50, 60, 70. How many people that are your age or younger do you know that are actually off the grid, that are actually resistant to?
I think it's a pretty even split across all age demographics. My kids, they don't care for AI. They see it as everybody else sees it. It's borderline theft. It's in some cases actual theft. Right. You've taken the works of other people and you've
Plagiarism.
created a machine that can spit out replicas of that work. I
Mhm.
see it a little differently. I think of it as a tool.
Mhm.
I don't know that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to embrace it right away. I think there's a lot of people really worried about um, stories about our government putting it in to help augment how we're making decisions in politics. And what they don't understand is that this isn't new. That stuff's already been in place, and they've been using it for years and years to make decisions, to track people down, to you know understand where trends are going to happen and what's going to end up being the next step for humanity. I mean, there's a company out there that takes all of the information from all of our tools, all of our sources, and they use it to predict the next social upheavals, the next social trends, the next
The next
and they're not. It's part of their business model that they don't hide it. They're like, yeah, this is what we're doing. We want to we want to solve problems and we want to make things better for you. That's what
Well,
they say.
as AI becomes normalized, how dangerous is the concept that entities and individuals will take the auspices of AI to forward, irresponsible or totalitarian ideas with stuff that's completely human created and propaganda.
Well, I mean, they're doing these things.
Models
Yeah.
are reading that stuff now. Yeah.
Yeah. I had applied for a job that had me take a physical, and before I took the physical, they gave me a questionnaire, and in the questionnaire it said, "Hey, we want you to sign this agreement, saying that we will give your test results completely over to your employer, and because your employer is not a HIPAA compliant company, they can do whatever they want with it." And they went into a lot more detail than what I'm giving you, but it's definitely a situation where I'm like, well, I can't sign this because
Yeah.
HIPAA's in place because they
It's
don't
your
want you
rights.
to take information and use it against me. And of course, if you sign the agreement, which I'm sure everybody that was there did, that information will be taken by the employer and handed over to their insurance company. So their liability company is going to put it in their model and say, oh, well, this person shows the risks for these things, right?
Right.
And right now, AI is better at diagnosing medical conditions than everyone. So an AI model can easily say, here's what's going to happen to this guy in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So that's a lot of risk that we're carrying on our data that we're just being asked to sign over. And I don't think a lot of people recognize that. I don't think anybody's talking about it at all.
Hmm.
I've tried bringing up the topic on Reddit a couple of times, and everybody's just like, "Well, that's part of the system," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's a recipe for dystopia."
And this is where there needs to be some maybe legislation, regulation, but they haven't really gotten to the point where they can. Well, right now the government's distracted by the look over there regime, but you know, uh,
I would say
but
that there's a
yeah,
lot of our
AI needs to be addressed over things like how corporations can use it. You know, yeah.
We should look
yeah,
up if pureai.com is taken. Pure AI.
your
Why?
AI.
Because I think I think that if it's not a thing, it should be a thing. This is pure AI. This is the real shit right here. Don't buy this shit over here. Buy our shit.
Yeah, I
New and
think
improved.
if humanity is going to have any chance at survival into the future, we need to have not just U.S. legislation. We need to have global agreement that your data is your data, nobody else, and that you cannot sign away your rights to your data. You can give license for people to use your data, but at all times you should know who has it, where it is, how it's being stored, how it's being protected, who wants to use it, why do they want to use it, who are you sharing things with. I mean, we need those things to be as strong as they possibly can be, because otherwise all of your data as it currently is being fed into a model, and it's not just for advertising.
And I work for I work for University Hospital in medical records. I've literally taught people, or at least had them go through and sign the HIPAA regulations. So I know all about HIPAA, and I know what you're saying. If it's not HIPAA compliant, no. But to be totally honest,
and it goes beyond HIPAA. This is human behavior, things that aren't even medical related, right? Your purchasing history, all of that, who you associate with.
And one of the things that they told me to emphasize, don't talk about it, is this woman told a story about a patient that she had heard about, and her daughter knew she knew part of the circumstances enough to put it together, and so she talked to the people at her high school, and this woman got fired. And not only that, but she was prosecuted. She ended up not going to jail, but she could have gone to prison for this. And so and it's just a simple thing of telling her daughter, don't do this because there could be bad circumstances. And her daughter repeated this in her school, and everybody figured out who it was. And so that was considered to be a HIPAA violation. Even though when I was initially hired, we did not have HIPAA yet. I actually predate the use of HIPAA. Oh. But yep, as old. I've been there 35 years. 35.
On the individual basis, there's stuff to be worried about with doing that. But what happens behind the scenes, right? Who else has access to all of your HIPAA information, right? If they're part of the HIPAA organization, we like to think that they've gone through all the hoops and gotten all the checks, and everybody's following up on that. But there's data breaches. There's all kinds of different scenarios where your information just gets sold out into the wild.
Right.
And so, it's
some people just give it to the Russians.
Right.
Well, yeah, right. So not just the Russians. Data is currency. Your personal information is being used to buy and sell. You know, somebody wants to advertise something on Facebook or YouTube or whatnot. They already know that information, and they're going to guide you to where they think you should go.
I was just picking on the NRBL schedule.
There's a signal out there that sometimes if people don't know how to use technology very well, they can end up allowing things to get out.
Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah. There's carelessness.
That's well, and misdirection, right? So that's one of the themes of this book is that, you know, the folks that want to be in control will do whatever they can to be in control. Mm-hmm. And we need to be more vigilant. We need to have that as something that's a little more part of our society, is to not be so flippant with you know, who knows what about it.
Yeah. Was Asimov a big influence on you? The Foundation and the robots?
I love Asimov. Yeah, he definitely.
I get Asimov vibes. I haven't read your stories yet, just from hearing all this. Yeah.
I love Asimov, Bradbury, Philip K. Dick. I love all the.
Philip K. Dick and Kurt Vonnegut are my two favorite authors.
Yeah, right. Fantastic stories. So if I can write something that makes somebody think, hey, this is kind of like those guys, I'm good. That's
cool. You reminded me of Asimov. There you go.
I appreciate that. That makes me thrilled.
I haven't read a lot of Asimov, or Vonnegut, but I like the accessibility of Vonnegut.
Right.
it doesn't blow your mind with science, but it's
Yeah.
does
I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
make
It-
its point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Vonnegut's not hard science, hard sci-fi. No.
Right.
Now I grew up reading Anne McCaffrey, David Eddings, Terry Pratchett, you
Yeah.
know.
Weiss and Hickman.
I went more towards the humor, things
Yeah.
that made me laugh.
Yeah.
But I feel like Anne McCaffrey, in essence, like her Dragon Riders books, started with people being deniers.
Yeah.
In essence, you
Yeah.
know, they wanted to step back from the technological society. They chose a world, they moved to that world, and they created their own society. Now, the dragons came about as I'm not going to tell you if you want to read about the dragons of Pern, Dragon Riders of Pern. Yeah. It's excellent books. But she also does books about the original society, the more technological society, like for instance, The Ship Who Sang, which I made Aaron and Philip read that for our book club.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one too.
Yeah.
I haven't read that one. Yeah,
I feel like it's a really positive thing. What they do is in The Ship Who Sang, and I'll just summarize this quickly. They take children that are born with catastrophic disabilities who would die, but have perfectly good minds, and they encase them in metal to make them be able to fit into things like ships and cities.
Yeah, they become the brain of the ship.
Computer brain. The computer brain. So they become the ship. The ship is made in such a way that they can feel the exterior, they can see everything that goes on inside and in their vicinity, so, and they're never ever alone. And they are raised in these creches with other children of similar issues. And they're raised basically as, in essence, their parents sign them over. Because the way it's looked at, they would have died anyway. They would not have survived. And the technology that was available at that time, they wouldn't. It's not like they would have been shunned. They just would not have lived. So they take these children, they put them in these machines, and they raise them to know that they're fine, that this is what, I was 10 when I found out other people had dessert when it wasn't a birthday.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So how you're raised is what you believe the world is like
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Before you branch out a little. And I went to a friend's house and the mom brought out a pie and I was like, oh, whose birthday is it? And my friend was like, nobody's. It's just hot.
Yeah.
So
we should mention the book is The Alignment by Anthony Krumm. Anthony's with us here today. So it was a good read. Good listen.
Yeah.
Even with the
I'll give it a
AI
read.
voice.
I'll give it a read when I have a day or two.
And I read.
Start from the beginning.
Read in Kindle half a and I use the AI. I went back and forth between the reading and the voice because it registers the same in my brain. I don't know why.
So Anthony, we close our shows out often with what we call the Elite 8 mini bracket. And it's not anything you have to do, of course. You could.
It's kind of a Ginger or Marianne. You make choices.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Marianne versus Ginger.
Yeah, and then we narrow it down to a best of the show. So, are you open to that?
Yeah, sure.
I think you said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
We're getting a delay on both you guys, so it's but that's our problem on our end. But
yeah, the internet in our area has been spotty. I've had trouble with work. I've had to boot my system. I've had to call my help desk.
So
I've even had to call him.
The topic we chose was best uses of AI, and usually we get Aaron's input on these, but we just ran out of time preparing, so we went ahead and just came up with these square offs.
Okay.
So we'll let Anthony have the first vote. Our first matchup is personalized healthcare versus self-driving vehicles as far as AI.
Personalized healthcare. Personalized healthcare, number one. absolutely.
Personalized health care.
Okay.
Just had a health event, so yeah, definitely. If AI can make that better, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather have health than a car that drives itself.
Yep.
Yeah. I, as a non-driver, would kind of like a self-driving car, but that's me.
So, second matchup. Oh, I've got Aaron's vote. Lisa, what your vote? What was
It was
your
2-1.
Personalized healthcare won, but
2-1
I'm gonna go.
healthcare.
Right.
okay.
I'm just, I've seen healthcare. I work in it. I'd like a car that can drive me everywhere I want to go without having to worry about paying someone.
But someone who doesn't have a license, I can almost see that. But
Yeah.
You still have to pay
right.
someone.
Yeah.
Arts and entertainment versus language translation.
Language translation.
hmm
Yeah,
I'm going to agree because
that's something it can probably actually do.
Right.
It does, yeah. For the most part, it's close to real time. I think at this point in a lot of languages. So.
And I think connection between people by
Mhm.
eliminating the language barrier can also improve arts and entertainment.
Well,
Absolutely.
I agree. Language.
and it eliminates language translation. Eliminates the human element of getting something lost in translate, or at least diminishes it somewhat. I think.
Right.
All right.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Broad-
that
That
could
might
go either way.
be a deeper discussion.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
There might be.
There's a great scene in the first episode of the show Shogun
hmm
where their language translation is a very big deal, and I think it's a very important scene for when you're talking about AI and what it brings to the table with translation. So,
Well, and like
you've
there's
never watched
many
Shogun.
stories about
Yeah.
why they don't allow family to translate for patients.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes family directs the care.
Well, we watched
Right.
Shogun, but you guys might not be surprised to know we started with episode 2. So
And I did. Let me clarify. I wasn't into it.
Oh.
Okay. The next one.
fraud detection versus customer service chatbots.
Oh, fraud detection.
Yeah, don't give me a chat bot. Give me fraud detection.
Yeah, I mean, I know folks that work in fraud detection. I hate to see them lose their jobs, but there is a lot of people taking advantage of systems that cause a lot of waste, a lot of cost waste.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, customer service. I think people need to talk with people.
Yeah.
If we don't, we lose that skill.
Absolutely.
But fraud detection absolutely should be unopinionated and based off of objective material.
Right.
As a polite Cincinnatian, as we've
Right.
if it's not a human, click. I have no problem. I still say thank you, no thank you, goodbye to the chatbot, but I hang up on it. Whereas if it's a human, I'm more likely to listen for a moment.
I get tired
Because it knows your social security number. So.
getting to the point where
Right. Oh,
I
yeah.
like the little AI thing that puts potential spam above a phone number that I don't
I love
recognize.
that.
I just
Like, well, I'm
got
not
that.
answering
I
that
love
one.
it. I just hit the little red phone instead
Yeah.
of
So here's our last matchup of round 1, and it's robotics versus business management.
Well, I think business management's kind of already being taken over by AI. Robotics is kind of the cool thing. I think when labor goes away, we're going to see a very interesting metamorphosis of our economy.
which is kind of why I feel like they're directing societal norms away from, like, I guess, saving people, because
Well,
robotics and jobs.
when everything's
Yeah.
made without effort,
Yeah.
labor is no longer a driving force for money. And then what does it mean? So
Yeah, and trickle down economics, instead of paying money for training people and making jobs available,
There's going to have
they
to be universal
investing in
basic income at some point.
replace.
I think that's a stopgap to post scarcity. I don't think that could be a long-term solution. Simply because you're taking money from the top percent that everybody's already upset with, and you're basically handing it to people to hand it right back to the same top 1%. So I think there's going to be a time in the very near future where we're going, well, none of this costs money. What does ownership mean?
Yeah.
Well, and this is our society is a consumer society, and if they take away all the jobs, what are we going to consume?
Right. Right. So what does money mean, right? Money right now for most everybody is an equivalent to labor. I could pay the guy to fix my backyard and I don't have to spend time and effort and skills that I don't have to try and do it myself.
Right.
But
So
if I've got a robot, maybe my robot does all that stuff for me, and doesn't matter how long it takes, it just does it.
Right. So we got robotics from Anthony. What say you, Aaron?
Yeah, robots.
Robotics
Robots with an I.
and
Robots.
for shits and giggles, what would you use?
I'm kind of anti-business, so I'll go with robotics too.
Okay. All right. So this is the final four.
Okay.
These are ones that survive the first cuts. First
Robots sticks
I'm
with the
gonna run
Asimov.
this one so Philip can give out his opinion. So
Okay.
I'm going to run the final four.
All right.
Personalized healthcare versus language translation.
Personalized healthcare.
Yeah, language translation's done.
Babelfish.
Personalized healthcare.
Google Translate. Babelfish. Yeah. I
Personalized
think it
health.
still exists. The
I don't know if they
website.
do not. Yeah, I haven't.
Not the Douglas Adams, but the
No, yeah, but there was a website. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't looked that up in a long time. But
Yeah,
I would imagine that the function probably isn't
Yeah.
too far off at this point.
Okay.
yeah Google Translate's right there, but I
Right.
haven't thought about the website Babelfish in ages.
Yeah,
So-
I hadn't either.
Healthcare too, just for the hell of it.
Okay. Okay, and then the other two, fraud detection versus robotics.
Oh, I favor robotics over fraud detection.
Yeah, robotics can
fraud
do many
detection-
things. Fraud detection's one thing.
Yeah, fraud detection kind of goes away as the business models, the money and all that change. So robotics kind of you can, I like Doritos, but they're not good for me, so I don't eat them. But if a robot can make me Doritos, I don't buy Doritos anymore, right? So
Poof, your Doritos.
I'm gonna make it a sweep on that. But I always think it's good when I look back on these Elite Eights. It seems like we always do filter out the chaff and come up with what should be the most, at least it seems that way. So
yeah.
The final two are personalized healthcare versus robotics.
Healthcare.
I'm sorry.
I'm all
Lost
for
me there.
healthcare, right? So too many people I know have lost to heart disease and cancer
And kidney disease.
and kidney disease, right? I mean, I got a friend who's making a living doing the repairs on kidney machines, but if we can cure it, I can't be mad at that.
right.
Yeah, and speaking to technology, we are doing dialysis at home, and it's not the PD dialysis. It is an actual dialysis machine in our home. We've got a room set aside for treatment. We get all the supplies, and Philip actually he cannulates me, which translate for those who don't know what that means, he stabs me.
Yep.
No.
In a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way.
I administered dialysis.
Right.
That's my night job.
Well,
And
Phil,
that
you just
does
made it sound
take-
less sexy.
Right. Yeah, tell me about it. But
He didn't talk about the candles and the music, but
well, we could do that, I suppose. But basically, I turn on the TV and he goes and makes some dinner, or
The
And
Misa
ends in stabbing.
and it's not.
right.
So, Aaron,
But
what was
yeah.
your choice, Aaron? Did you say healthcare or?
Yeah, probably personalized healthcare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hun?
That's also going to be a sweep. So I think we got personalized healthcare.
I think
Is-
though, with the
is the
inception of what are they called? Mini bots, microbots.
Nanobots.
Yeah, I think robotics may come into personalized healthcare with the inception of those.
yeah, I just read an article that they might have figured out how to create infinite robots by using organics to help build robots, nanobots. But It was just an article, so I didn't do any research. But yeah, that could very well be the future. I mean, if AI is already good enough to detect and diagnose most, if not all, of your conditions, just the next step for it to send something in to treat you.
Right.
Well, and then also we have something that I find absolutely fascinating. Dogs, I'm going to say specific to dogs and dolphins because that's the stories I've heard the most. But dogs can detect skin cancer and actually other cancers. And dolphins can detect cancer.
Right.
Yeah, and they use dogs for epilepsy patients, right? Dogs can detect when you're going to have a seizure.
Right. Oh, well,
There's a lot of things that we could, bolster with AI and your AI powered dog.
Right.
Right.
They can also be used for they can
Astro.
detect like especially in children, dogs can be used to detect high and low blood sugar. They can smell the difference. They can be trained to say, "Hey, this smells bad." If it's not in the range they're expected. And so they're being used for diabetes, for epilepsy, so that children who are epileptic can get in the swimming pool. And then if their dog alerts, they're trained to say, like bark a certain way to alert them, hey, I think there's a problem. The kid gets out of the pool, has a seizure, waits a few minutes, gets back in.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, here we are at the hour mark, and it's been a really good discussion, I think. We did enjoy the book, and we enjoyed having you on the show. Is there
I will enjoy the book.
to promote before we, for instance, websites? Is it on Amazon, that type of thing?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon. The alignment, Tales from Tomorrow. You can also get it on Barnes and Nobles.
Okay.
So I have friends who boycott one or the other, so I want to make sure it's available. So
Is it on Goodreads? I know Aaron does Goodreads.
You
I
don't buy
haven't.
books there, you just review them.
It's listed on Goodreads, so definitely if you liked it, give it a good review there.
Okay.
So
I gave it a positive review on Amazon.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, we'll let you
Anthony
hit.
Krumm, Krumm.
Yes.
Is there anything that we did not mention or cover that you like to make sure is highlighted about your work?
I think you did a pretty good job with this book. My wife and I are actually we're writing a space opera. We've already got one volume out.
I love those.
Cool.
So yeah, that's available on Amazon. It might be on Barnes and Nobles at this point, but it's definitely on Amazon. But we're finishing up volume 2 on that one, and I'm already halfway through volume 3. So
what's the title of volume 1?
Volume 1 is A Garden Among the Stars.
Okay.
Nice.
It's a distant future. It's got an Imperium. It's got colony planets. It's got an alien megastructure. It's a sentient world that is a garden.
Wow.
So
I like it.
Sounds cool.
That reminds me of there's a sentient planet in one of Anne McCaffrey's storylines. So,
okay. See, I only read the Dragon Riders for Anne McCaffrey. I might have to pick up some of the other.
The sentient ships are pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have one quick question that we kind of abandoned in the past, but I think you're the perfect person to ask this. How many bathrooms are there on the Death Star?
On the Death Star, I don't think I saw a single one.
That's
a popular answer.
My favorite answers are 1 or 0.
I don't think I saw any. Yeah. I mean, I could assume there would be, but they don't have railings, so I guess safety isn't really a concern either. So
I've never seen Darth Vader walking.
I like to picture one bathroom and 100 stormtroopers in line.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
They just jettisoned everything.
Yeah, they just walk around and the Jedi's just kind of it out of them.
That's what those little 4-wheeled droids.
Yeah, that's right.
But mostly they do
janitor
have
droids.
a trash compactor,
Right.
so
I mean, when you're dealing with thousands of alien species, what does a bathroom mean?
That's
right?
true.
Exactly.
Right.
Could be sanitary for one race. Could be offensive to the Wookiees. I don't know.
Could be outfitted with batteries for some race.
You don't want to offend the Wookiees.
Right?
Bidets!
You want to let them win chess.
Hey!
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You guys too. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, we'll let you know when it posts.
We have social.
Twitter,
Yeah, pod.
Instagram,
Yeah, pod.
Facebook.
Yeah, pod. So let us know. Hit us back. Have a great week.